Well, welcome back. The president of South Korea, Yoon, is facing impeachment this morning after a failed attempt to declare martial law overnight. One opposition party even finalizing plans for treason charges against him. And the nation's largest union is threatening to strike until the president steps down. The country spiraled into chaos last night after the president accused the opposition of sympathizing with North Korea. But lawmakers forced their way past soldiers and into parliament, where they voted to strike down the martial law order, which was lifted early this morning. The parliament will vote this Friday or Saturday over whether or not to impeach Yoon. Joining us now to talk about that, as well as all things China, is the Gatestone Institute senior fellow and author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Gordon Chang back with us. Gordon, good to see you. Your reaction to what took place in South Korea overnight?
This was just stunning. President Yoon has been a force for peace and stability in North Asia, and he will leave one way or another. He'll step down or be impeached and convicted. And that leaves the door open for China and North Korea for serious troublemaking in the region. The North Koreans are always trying to take advantage of the situation in the South. Now the door is open to him. Yoon was in a sense right. The opposition, the progressives, the leftists really have been sympathizing with North Korea. They've been attacking South Korea's democracy, but that was not a reason to declare martial law, and it was declared really poorly.
Does that cause even more disruption after he goes?
Yes, it could very well, because as you know, that introduction mentioned, the unions are very much controlled by leftists, which means they're controlled by North Korea. They can do a lot of disruption in South Korean society, as they've done in the past, and now they've got a reason to do so.
Wow. Let me move on to China. China is banning key mineral exports used in U.S. defense products. So they're banning these products to the United States. It comes after the U.S. issued new restrictions on exports of certain semiconductor chips to China. The rare minerals are used for a variety of items such as microchips, cars, batteries, weapons, and are critical to the economic and national security of the United States. Your thoughts?
Well, here again, we've allowed ourselves to become vulnerable to our enemy. On this show, you broke the news during the pandemic that China actually turned around a ship mid-ocean, which was carrying PPEs to New York hospitals. That shows you how the Chinese are trying to take advantage of the situation. And it's not just the Chinese. Australia, our treaty ally, actually refused to sell us critical medicines during the pandemic as well. We need to become resilient. At the end of the Trump administration, they had that $750 million loan to Eastman Kodak in order to develop APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients. The thing is, that was a great idea. It was poorly implemented, but we need to do that. And I hope President Trump puts that at the top of his agenda when he takes office.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous that we're still so reliant on the China supply chains.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. And you mentioned the incident when I was on the air back in 2020, and my hospital sources told me that they were expecting gloves and masks and all this PPE equipment, but the ships carrying them were told by China to turn around, go back to China, because China needed those products. And they had already cornered the market for PPE, and they were doing it even further by turning their ships around.
Yeah.
And that was when we knew and we expected, because we heard from Tom Cotton, Arkansas senator, that the COVID pandemic was a result of COVID leaking from the Wuhan lab. Michael?
So from the very beginning, anyone ever said that, they were denigrated, they were canceled, they were said you're fomenting a war with China. And yet when you take a look at all of the objective facts back then, it just didn't make sense. It just came out of a wet market. Now,